So the Indiana Fever almost certainly protected Sophie Cunningham. Almost certainly protected Sophie.
She broke the internet twice in less than 12 hours, and the WNBA world can't keep up. Sophie Cunningham has fans questioning everything about her future with the Indiana Fever after a chaotic 24-hour headline storm. First, she reveals a new role with USA Network covering basketball. Then she shocks everyone by landing a spot in the Sports Illustrated Swimsuit 2026 edition. At the same time, Indiana Fever issues a core qualifying offer, and her contract situation remains unclear. Is she preparing to stay in Indiana long-term, or quietly building a powerful brand beyond basketball as uncertainty grows around her next WNBA move? The speculation only gets louder with every new headline.
I can't make this up, man. Sophie Cunningham is getting to the bank. Now, it's been roughly, 12 hours since she has pretty much broken the damn internet. Well, I'm here to tell you, she landed herself another job.
Let's talk about Sophie Cunningham's last 24 hours, because she's been on an absolute business sprint and nobody can really keep up. Within roughly a 12-hour window, she revealed two major off-court career moves that had nothing to do with basketball, but everything to do with expanding her brand and securing long-term financial opportunities. At the same time, the Indiana Fever quietly issued a core qualifying offer, which adds another layer of uncertainty to her future with the franchise. So what does that actually mean? A core qualifying offer is essentially the Fever signaling that they want to retain her rights and begin formal negotiations. It does not guarantee a contract, and it does not force Sophie to accept anything. It simply places her in the center of the team's off-season plans while discussions continue behind the scenes. And from a basketball standpoint, you can understand why Indiana values her. She was one of the most reliable complementary pieces on the roster, especially alongside Caitlin Clark. She spaces the floor with her shooting, brings consistent defensive effort, and plays within her role without needing high usage. That kind of versatility is exactly what the Fever need more of as they continue building around their young core. That is why the front office clearly wants her back in the system as negotiations move forward this offseason. She remains a key piece in how Indiana plans to build a more balanced and competitive roster around Caitlin Clark going forward long-term.
Latest news, shout out to Chloe Peterson. She's the quickest, she's the fastest, letting us know what's going on with this team. The Indiana Fever has expected to send out a core qualifying offer. They did that yesterday. Now, we also know some powerful news happened yesterday, too, in the Sophie Cunningham department.
Here's where things get even more interesting, because Sophie Cunningham just turned 24 hours into a full-blown media storm. About 12 hours after the Indiana Fever news about a core qualifying offer started circulating, Sophie went on social media and dropped back-to-back announcements that immediately shifted the entire conversation around her future. First came the USA Network deal. She's officially joining as a basketball contributor, covering NBA and WNBA games throughout the season. This isn't a side hobby or a casual podcast appearance. This is a legitimate broadcast role with a major network, meaning real visibility, real responsibility, and real money attached to her name in the media space. And that's where the questions started, because now people are wondering how this fits into a full WNBA schedule. Can you realistically balance being a professional athlete and a national broadcaster at the same time? Technically, yes, but it demands elite time management and coordination with your team, especially during travel-heavy stretches of the season. So naturally, speculation about her long-term role with the Fever started heating up immediately. Then, just when the conversation was peaking, she dropped another bomb. Sophie is officially featured in the Sports Illustrated Swimsuit 2026 edition. Not a cameo, not a minor feature, but a full-scale shoot in Fort Myers alongside other elite athletes, complete with behind-the-scenes footage, video content, and full promotional rollout. It's a massive branding moment tied to one of the most iconic sports publications in the world, and it only adds more fuel to the growing debate about what comes next for her in Indiana. The video Sophie posted takes things to another level, because it isn't just about the photo shoot, it's about the message behind it. In it, she talks about empowerment, strength, and identity. She describes what it means to be strong and beautiful at the same time, and how success often comes from sacrifice, discipline, and relentless work. She speaks about kicking ass on the court and kicking ass in the real world, framing her journey as more than just basketball. That message aligns closely with the modern direction of Sports Illustrated swimsuit, which increasingly highlights female athletes who break stereotypes and show that power and femininity can coexist without contradiction. The reaction online was immediate and explosive. The internet completely lit up. Her comments section turned into chaos in the best way possible. Chloe Bibby reacted with, "Girl, I just dropped my phone." Lexi Hull simply wrote, "Oh hi." KK Timpson said she basically passed out. Across the WNBA, teammates and peers were hyping her up, congratulating her, and amplifying the moment. Within hours, Sophie Cunningham was trending across platforms. Twitter went wild, Instagram was flooded with reactions, and sports media outlets quickly picked up the story. She didn't just go viral, she dominated the entire conversation. But from a business standpoint, this is where it gets really interesting. Sophie Cunningham is now building multiple income streams outside of her WNBA salary. A broadcasting role with USA Network brings media pay and long-term visibility. A Sports Illustrated swimsuit feature adds modeling revenue and global exposure. And together, they strengthen her personal brand in a way that extends far beyond her playing career. With WNBA salaries reportedly around the low to mid six figures for players like her, even under improved structures, it's smart financial positioning rather than purely athletic earnings. It's a strategy focused on long-term security. Which leads to the biggest question of all. Is this the path of someone fully locked into Indiana long-term, or someone preparing for whatever comes next? And that's where things get murky, because there are really two very different ways to read everything Sophie Cunningham is doing right now. Interpretation 1. She's staying with the Indiana Fever and simply building out additional revenue streams alongside her WNBA career. In this view, she understands that a playing career is limited, so she's using her current platform to set up life after basketball. The USA Network role shows she can translate her on-court experience into credible media analysis. The Sports Illustrated swimsuit feature shows she has crossover appeal far beyond basketball. And importantly, none of this necessarily conflicts with being a full-time WNBA player in Indiana if the scheduling works. Interpretation 2. She's quietly preparing for a future that may not be tied to Indiana or even to basketball long-term. The USA Network job offers flexibility, visibility, and a national platform that doesn't require her to be locked into one market. The Sports Illustrated shoot is already completed content, meaning the commitment is front-loaded, not ongoing. Together, these moves build a brand that stands independently from team affiliation, location, or even playing status. The truth is likely somewhere in the middle. Sophie is operating like a modern athlete who understands that value doesn't stop at the court. She has name recognition from playing alongside Caitlin Clark, she has a growing social media presence, and she has credibility as a hard-nosed role player in a rising franchise. That combination creates a short window where her market value is at its peak, and she's clearly taking advantage of it. None of this confirms whether she's staying or leaving Indiana. It just confirms she's thinking strategically, maximizing opportunity, and securing financial upside while her spotlight is brightest. Because at the end of the day, professional athletes have short careers and uncertain futures, and making money when opportunities show up is just smart business. That's the bigger context behind everything Sophie Cunningham is doing right now. Now, the question becomes, what are the Indiana Fever actually thinking in the middle of all this? They already sent out a core qualifying offer because they want her back. From a pure basketball standpoint, it makes sense. Sophie fits the roster, she fits the culture, and she knows how to play alongside Caitlin Clark. She spaces the floor, defends with energy, and doesn't need high usage to impact winning. For a team trying to stabilize its identity around a young superstar, those traits are extremely valuable. But basketball decisions are never made in a vacuum, and this is where things get complicated. The Fever also have major salary cap decisions to make this offseason. They need to figure out what happens with Kelsey Mitchell, who is a key free agent and will command serious money on the market. They also have to decide which veterans to retain, which pieces to let walk, and whether they want to pursue additional impact players like Azura Stevens in free agency. Every one of those decisions affects how much financial flexibility they have left for someone like Sophie Cunningham. And that's the real issue. Everything is connected. If Indiana commits big money to retaining Kelsey Mitchell, that could limit what they can realistically offer Sophie. If they pivot away from Mitchell and redistribute that money elsewhere, they might be able to bring Sophie back at a competitive rate while still making other roster improvements. But until those dominoes start falling, nothing is certain. Right now, the entire situation is speculation layered on top of speculation. What we do know is that Sophie is not sitting still waiting for answers. She's actively expanding her career portfolio while the offseason unfolds. She's not relying solely on the Fever's timeline or decisions. Instead, she's securing opportunities in media and branding that stand completely independent of basketball. That's a key point. She's building financial security regardless of where she ends up playing. The reference to the Satu Sabaly situation from last year is important here. There was heavy speculation that Sabaly would end up with the Fever in free agency. Content creators were locked in, fans were convinced it made sense, and the narrative grew rapidly online. Then she signed elsewhere, and the entire prediction cycle collapsed. It was a reminder that even obvious basketball fits don't always happen in real life. Free agency is unpredictable, and personal decisions often outweigh roster logic. That's why it's risky to confidently declare anything about Sophie's future right now. But we can still draw some conclusions. Sophie Cunningham is in demand. If she reaches open market conditions, multiple teams will want her. She's a proven role player who can contribute to winning basketball next to elite talent. She understands spacing, effort, and role acceptance traits that don't always show up in box scores but matter a lot in playoff-level basketball. She also has a reputation for toughness and competing in high-pressure moments, which increases her value even further. From that perspective, the Fever would be smart to keep her. The ideal scenario for Indiana is simple: lock her into a multi-year deal, maintain continuity, and avoid overcomplicating a roster that finally started showing chemistry at the end of last season. Letting her walk would mean trying to replace a very specific type of player who already fits cleanly next to their franchise cornerstone. And that's not always easy to replicate. There's also encouraging depth within the current group. Lexi Hull continues to be part of that core rotation, and she's another player who complements Caitlin Clark's style. She can shoot, move off the ball, and defend without needing plays run for her. A lineup featuring Clark, Hull, Cunningham, and Aaliyah Boston has a clear structure: spacing on the perimeter, defensive effort on the wings, and interior presence inside. That's a functional foundation the Fever can actually build on instead of constantly reshuffling pieces. Meanwhile, Sophie's Sports Illustrated swimsuit caption and rollout were simple but effective. She didn't over-explain anything. She let the visuals carry the moment. And the response reflected how powerful that strategy was. Teammates, former teammates, and WNBA peers flooded the comments. Fans reacted instantly. Media outlets picked it up across platforms. The engagement was massive, and the timing only added to the conversation surrounding her future. This is where Sophie Cunningham stands out from many athletes in the league. She understands branding at a high level. She understands timing, visibility, and how to turn attention into opportunity. A lot of players focus solely on performance and hope everything else follows. Sophie is actively building parallel paths on the court and off it. That's part of why she's landing opportunities like a USA Network broadcasting role and a Sports Illustrated feature, while others with similar basketball resumes may not be getting the same level of crossover exposure. She's not just participating in the sports ecosystem, she's expanding beyond it. And that Sports Illustrated appearance is especially significant because it places her in front of audiences who may not even follow the WNBA. That kind of exposure translates into long-term brand value, endorsements, and post-career opportunities that extend well beyond basketball. So when you zoom out, the situation becomes clearer. Sophie Cunningham is securing media deals, modeling exposure, and building a long-term brand while the Indiana Fever try to navigate roster construction and free agency. She is getting paid from multiple directions, not just her WNBA contract, and she is positioning herself for life beyond her playing years. Whether she returns to Indiana or signs elsewhere, she is operating from a position of financial strength and visibility. And that's the modern athlete blueprint: maximize your value while you're in the spotlight, because the spotlight doesn't last forever.